Welcome to another week of the Playmakers Bar Podcast, NFL edition. This week is all about the South, the NFC South and the AFC South. In this one, we brought back Gabriel from Unfiltered Access to talk about the NFC South as the Saints won it last year. So can the Falcons, Panthers, and Bucks make a run for it this year? We'll talk about it. But on the other hand, we'll talk about the AFC South with another friend from Unfiltered Access, Jason Draven. We're going to talk about Houston winning it last year, what we look like with the Colts, what the Jaguars look like with Nick Foles, and can Tennessee do anything? So it's all about the South in the NFL. AFC, NFC, we're going to get into their schedule and what divisions play what. It's going to be very interesting. So sit back, relax, go on the YouTube channel, do whatever it is you got to do while listening to your podcast, because now we're in the dirty South. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another week of NFL podcasting. This is your boy, the Playmaker down there, silencing as always. Football down with me. How you doing?
Doing good. How about y'all?
Hey, back for another week is Gabe. What's going on, Gabe?
Nothing much. Good to be back.
This week we're talking about the South. We'll be getting into Dallas's division, since he's a Jaguar fan. But first up, we're going to talk about the NFC South with Gabe. And just like last week, Gabe, go ahead and get us started with the NFC South.
Yeah, so the NFC South this year, and like most years, it's always a battle. Three really good teams at the top, and the New Orleans Saints, Atlanta Falcons, and Carolina Panthers, with, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers a little bit behind them. But last year saw the Saints run away with the division with a 13-3 record, and that really was surprising for a lot of people, including myself. I thought the Falcons and Panthers both would be competitive last year in the division, but injuries and set of circumstances to Cam Newton and other players really hindered the NFC South from being as competitive as it should be. So I'm expecting a lot more fight and competitiveness within the division this year.
Dallas, what you got for the NFC South?
Basically what Gabriel said. I mean, it's three really good teams, then there's a team at the bottom. And that's pretty much how you sum it up. There's no real other way to really look at the NFC South except for that way. It's odd to think that everybody in that division has their quarterback, it would seem, because I feel like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, with a new head coach and the same offseason that they let go of a franchise cornerstone and gave his number to another defensive tackle that's on a one-year deal, I feel like this would have been the perfect time for them to draft a new quarterback or just try to get a placeholder in free agency, but they didn't. That being said, I mean, the way they are right now, because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the top three, I know they finished in the top three. I want to say they were number one. I know they finished in the top three in passing yards and total yards per game. So they were able to throw it through the air. But, even though it's a passing league and the run game is kind of sort of dying back, just being able to throw the ball doesn't mean that you'll win a bunch of games, because their defense was lacking. They had no balance. Their run game was lacking. And they didn't trust Jameis. Now, granted, Jameis, couldn't start the season, but still. So, yeah, as far as who would win it, though, I still think it's the Saints division to lose, because the Saints are younger and better for the most part. I think the only real hole that they might have compared to last year is you wonder how much Teron Armstead can stay healthy, and if he can give them at least 14 to 15 games in the regular season, because he's been having injury issues for a while.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with Dallas's assessment on the Saints. It is by far their division to lose as of right now. But I do think it will be much tighter because I do think the Falcons have improved defensively, and that Carolina has added some blue chip pieces as well, including Gerald McCoy from the Buccaneers. That was a really big haul for them. But the Saints, listen, they still have Drew Brees, and they still have probably the best 1-2 combo with wide receiver, running back, and Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara. And they just picked up Jared Cook from the Raiders last year, who had a tremendous year with Derek Carr throwing to him. So who knows how Drew Brees is going to use all his weapons this year. He had arguably his best year last year, and if it wasn't for Patrick Mahomes, then he would have probably won his first regular season MVP. So, yeah, the Saints are definitely the top team in this division right now. And I think that they'll be Super Bowl favorites amongst several other teams, but it's going to be a much harder route to win the division this year because of the Falcons and their potent offense with the wide receiver trio of Julio Jones, Sanu, and Calvin Ridley, along with Austin Hooper, who had a very good year last year. And the Carolina Panthers, if Cam Newton can just stay upright for an entire season, he's proven to be one of the best top 10 quarterbacks in the league. And Christian McCaffrey really had a breakout season. I think that bolstering their defense will definitely help them compete even more so. But I see this as a bounce back year for both the Falcons and the Panthers, who finished with identical 7-9 records, that they'll be on the Saints' tail more towards the end of the season and trying to snatch away the divisional crown from them.
Well, I would say that social media agrees with both of y'all. As we did last week, we did some polls. And Dallas, Facebook, together we had 72 votes.
Oh, hey. It's pretty good.
And guess what percentage the Saints got?
Was it the majority?
67%.
Oh, well.
Number 2 was the Falcons with 21%, followed by Carolina 7% and Tampa Bay 5%.
Man, people actually said Tampa?
I guess only from Tampa. They must have voted from there.
Yeah. Tampa got a combined four votes. And Carolina only got 5, so it's looking like Saints and Falcons. So, like a 2-team race.
Yeah.
But you mentioned a new head coach for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Bruce Arians. I'd like to see what he's going to do with Jameis Winston. No Deshaun Jackson in Tampa. He's back home in Philly. They did. Which you was alluded to earlier. Nothing really big in Carolina, just can Cam Newton stay upright, as Gabriel said. The Saints did lose Mark Ingram, so more of a load will be on Alvin Kamara. We'll see how that works.
However, they were able to land Latavius Murray, who from the Vikings, they signed him to a 4-year deal, so he will try and get a lot of the backup roles and trying to take the load off of Kamara too. I think that was a sneaky good signing for the Saints to nab Murray.
The Falcons, as Gabriel said, they added Jared McCoy. They also added J.J. Wilcox in the secondary. They're getting Deion Jones back. They're getting Keanu Neal back, so they should be healthy going into this season. By the way, back to the Saints, Michael Thomas is the highest paid wide receiver ever.
Yeah, Michael Thomas also had like 90% of the targets. Then Michael Thomas had like 150 targets, 140 something targets. The next closest wide receiver only had like 38.
Yeah, no, he led the league in receptions last year, so that just shows you how heavily used and how favored he was in Drew Brees' corner. And I wonder how Jared Cook, how his presence, if he can have a sort of Jimmy Graham impact that he did while he was on the Saints, if he can have that sort of offensive impact, spread out the field a little more for Drew Brees. I'm really excited to see what the Saints offense is like this year.
But check this out, though. The NFC South got to go against the NFC West this whole season.
It's a tough schedule for a lot of them, especially the Falcons, man. Oh, I don't know if y'all have seen the Falcons schedule, but it is rough.
It gets better, Dallas, because guess what?
What?
The two divisions we talking about today play each other. It's the battle for the South this year.
Oh, the NFC South has that all day.
Yeah.
We'll get to the NFC South in our next segment. But just so you know, it's the battle for the South this year, AFC and NFC South.
It's the NFC South is going to run away with it. Even Tampa's going to get some games.
Oof.
Oh, man.
I can't wait to hear what you got to say when we go to the NFC South.
Yeah, no.
But
Oh, the tweet up.
I did try to look at the extra 2 games that everybody would have. And you're right. The first 2 games for Atlanta is at Minnesota and home to Philly.
Yeah, the Falcons' schedule is brutal, honestly, if I'm looking at it, because they have to play on the road for, like you said, Minnesota, the be a tough game, the Texans, and so that's in the first 8 weeks. They play the Vikings, the Eagles, the Colts, the Texans, the Rams, the Seahawks, and then the second half of their schedule is where it will be basically make and break for their seasons, because the first 5 games are against their divisional opponents. They don't play any divisional opponents in the first half, and then they play 6 of the 8 of the second half games are against their divisional foes, starting off with at the Saints and at Carolina for the first 2 weeks. So, man, that's going to be a brutal stretch for them. Yeah, exactly. So they're going to be on the spotlight, and it's going to be it'll be tough for them, honestly. Their defense will have to go back to what they were in 2017, because last year, although there were a lot of starters that were injured throughout the season, like Vic Beasley had some limited playing time. If everyone can go back strong, then they'll have a good shot. But man, that schedule doesn't do them any favors.
By the way, Tevin Coleman is in San Francisco. They got to go to San Francisco week 15.
Yeah, no,
I'm pretty sure they suffer that game. And Kyle Shanahan.
Who's the
And then
quarterback back?
And then the Jaguars go to the ATL week 16 before they finish off with 10.
I mean, that'll all depend, I guess.
So I do expect Atlanta to be better, but that schedule, whew,
yeah, it's a grinder.
easy.
It's weird how their schedule is so hard, and they didn't make the playoffs last year.
No, only the Saints made the playoffs in that division.
Yeah, like why is their schedule so hard and they weren't a playoff team?
And matter of fact, the Saints are one team that have a winning season in that division.
Yeah.
How is their division so hard and they had a losing season? Well, schedule.
I mean, they were only 7-9, so maybe the football gods didn't do them any favors by saying, hey, you're only 1 game under 500, you should be better. But I mean, they have to face the AFC South especially for the Falcons. A lot of their games will be away, like that game against the Colts away at week 3 and the Texans week 5. Those are tough games. So I don't know. It's just pretty unfortunate for them, like you said, since they weren't a winning team last year and they ended up being tied for second with the Panthers in that division. But their schedule is ridiculous.
I mean, let's look at the Saints schedule. Who actually won the division? At home, Monday Night Football against Houston. That's the first of 2 Monday night games. Then they got to come all the way to L.A. They take on the Rams. And they got to stay out. You got to play Seattle in week 3. Week 4, they home on Sunday Night Football against the Cowboys before they get to Tampa. That's it. I mean, the Saints schedule doesn't do them no favors either. They got to go to Soldier Field too.
But I mean, them having a hard schedule makes sense. They got to the divisional round.
No, they got to the NFC Championship.
Oh yeah.
There were one blown call, pass interference call, which they can obviously challenge now thanks to that game from being in the Super Bowl. So it's crazy to think that. I think that's why I don't think that the Saints will get to the same record that they did last year, and it'll be a much closer race. I see them more as a 10-11 win team, which is still very good, but just because the schedule in general for the NFC South is harder, it's going to be really hard for the Saints to replicate the type of season where they were able to pull 9 straight wins last year. That's their schedule this year, unless their offense is out of this world again. And their defense can, be at least competent and middle of the pack defense, then they'll have a chance. But yeah, for the Saints and also the Falcons and the Panthers, and I guess the Bucks too, the NFC South is just going to be a real battle this year.
I mean, the Bucks, they first 3 games, could mean a lot because they at home against San Fran. They got to go to Carolina, and they home to the Giants. So if they can come out of 2-1, that's a good start before they got to come to LA and then play at New Orleans before they go to London to play Carolina again.
Yeah, definitely. And it's going to be interesting to see how Bruce Arians and also Todd Bowles as the new defensive coordinator, how they're going to do trying to guide the Buccaneers to relevancy again, because they haven't made the playoffs in over 10 years now. They've had 5-11 records, back-to-back seasons. But if they can have a really strong defense under Bowles, and if Arians can become the quarterback guru for Jameis Winston, really light a fire under him and get him back to what he was in his rookie year, then I think the Buccaneers will surprise a lot of people. But a lot hinges on that defense because, like we said before, they have the weapons with Mike Evans, and even though they lost to Sean Jackson, they still have Adam Humphries and Chris Godwin and amongst others. So I'm really interested to see what they do with that defense because although they did sign Ndamukong Suh, I think the best move for them in this offseason was drafting Devin White because he was a beast at LSU, you know. So if their defense can even be a little bit better than they were the last year or so, then I think Tampa will definitely be improved from last year, but it'll be interesting to see.
Now, the main concern with Carolina is Cam Newton, right? Alice?
Yeah.
What he did to Carolina?
Say that again?
They against a player who was ranked number one by his peers on the NFL top 100 players.
And which year?
Out the gate. Cam Newton has to deal with Aaron Donald week 1.
Oh, man. That's
yeah, your lead up was weird. I was trying to figure out where you were going with this. But yeah, like, it's crazy because the Pro Bowler, the perennial Pro Bowler, Trey Turner, I don't think he faces Aaron Donald. I think Trey Turner lines up on the left side, which would be facing the offense the right side. So, like, Aaron's going to be on the right guard, and I think Trey's on the other side. So, yeah, that's not a good look.
Worrying about Carolina Panther fans, I worrying about Cam Newton. Well, my LA Rams are coming in town week 1.
Yeah, that's going to be a big test for Cam Newton and that offensive line. So I think they did make some strides in addressing that. They were able to land the top free agent center in Matt Paredes, but having to face Aaron Donald on the line week 1, it'll be interesting to see if Cam Newton can stay healthy throughout these 16 games. So, and if not, I think that them drafting Will Grier in the 3rd round will end up being pretty huge if Cam Newton misses some time. So we'll see how that shakes out, but it's going to be a lot of onus on that offensive line.
And not to mention, when you get done facing Aaron Donald, you'll be facing the Ndamukong Suh the following week with Tampa Bay.
Yep.
Thursday night.
And Gerald McCoy with the Panthers. So, I mean, sorry, that was with the Panthers. But, yeah, no, just this whole division, it's that they've got some dogs out there that can get after the quarterback. And I think it's going to be, a very interesting year for Cam Newton if he can get away from guys like Cameron Jordan and Jason Pierre-Paul, guys like that, even Aaron Donald. So it's going to be a tough one for him, but I think that Christian McCaffrey will also be a big part of that if he can sort of use him as the way Le'Veon Bell was for Ben Roethlisberger, sort of dunking off the ball to him when the pressure gets too much. Because McCaffrey had a great year last year, but he's going to need a lot more help if Cam Newton wants to get through this season.
Pretty much. I think Dallas has Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley in the same category, right?
Well, them and Kamara. Though, because those are running backs where it's like they have a very good chance to lead their teams in receiving, either receptions, yards, or both.
Right.
Those 3 running backs are the ones where it's like, yeah, they're in a whole different world when it comes to what the NFL is after for their running backs nowadays and what being a bell cow really means.
Yeah, the dual threats.
They are trying to give us Cam Newton versus Aaron Rodgers up at Lambeau Field week 10.
The question is either of them going to make it there? Because it's not like Aaron Rodgers all stays healthy.
Yeah, that'll be a key if both of them can make it to Week 10. That'll be a great matchup. But in recent years, the injury bug has not been kind to them.
It will be interesting to see Kyle Murray go against Cam Newton in Week 3 and Deshaun Watson versus Cam in Week 4. Both road games, by the way. It's just,
the Deshaun and Cam matchup is going to be more interesting because it seems like Deshaun, when you look at the new generation quarterbacks, when Cam finally, bows out, I think Deshaun's going to take over that spot of, who is going to be the actual dual threat in the NFL. Right now, it's between Deshaun and Russell. And, and it depends on Lamar because when you say dual threat, you really have to have the air along with the ground. But as far as being able to pass and run, right now it's Deshaun and Russell. So that is going to be interesting. Kyler, though, I don't know because I'm still skeptical on how the Texas Tech Red Raiders offense is going to work in the NFL when you have the worst offensive personnel in the league running it. So,
well, you'll be able to talk more about that next week when we get into the West. Seems like you guys are all on the same page. It's the Saints and everybody else do something.
It's a really, really, really hard division. I think that we're not really being innovative here. I don't think we're giving really hot content. I think almost everybody's saying fairly the same thing. It's everybody but Tampa has a chance.
Yep, exactly. And that's why it's going to be one of the more intriguing divisions. And I think that it's going to be much closer than it was last year. I can see the Saints with a topping out between 10 and 11 wins and the Falcons 9 and 10 wins and the Panthers around that area too. But yeah, it's those three and the Buccaneers, which at least there's three teams that are going to be involved like other divisions. It's not going to be as one-sided. So it's going to be a really fun to watch this year, and especially with each team having a pretty rough schedule compared to last year. It's going to show if the Saints are, for real as Super Bowl contenders again this year, and if the Falcons and Panthers can get back to that Super Bowl level that they've shown in the past few years.
Sorry, Bucks. Nobody believes in you.
It's okay. It's all the rough parts of being a Florida team. Because nobody believes in the Jackson Dolphins either.
Hey, at least you got the Jacksonville Jaguars, sort of.
We're going to get into that one real quickly. We're going to get into that one very soon because you're going to be surprised about these numbers from social media. I'm just going to put that out.
Not from Twitter.
So that'll do it for this one. Gabe, thank you for coming back and talking the NFC South.
Of course, man. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
We're going to take a short break. When we come back, it's all about the AFC South, and Dallas get to talk about his Jaguars.
Yeah, fuck the Titans.
Have you ever thought about starting your own podcast? It's a long process. It's a hard, thought-out process. Yeah, I know. I was there. From March of this year, thinking about how I'm going to do this, doing all my research, trying to get everything right. What platforms can we use and how we going to record it and how we going to make it sound good and make it all this happen. And then I came upon Anchor. The Anchor app on my phone, the easiest choice I could ever make to do a podcast. It's free to use. You don't got to pay for nothing. You can record episodes whenever you're ready. You can edit it and then you can release them when you want to. And you don't have to worry about trying to figure out how you're going to distribute it on other platforms because Anchor has partnerships with Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Breaker, Castbox, Pocket Cast, whatever you name it. Because the Playmakers Wild Podcast is the podcast that I use. We're on all them platforms. We're on 9 platforms just by using the Anchor app. So pretty much all the questions that you have questions about doing a podcast, go to the Anchor app or go to the Anchor website, anchor.fm.com, and just search through it, ask questions. Because I tell you, a free app that does all this, there's nothing more you can ask for. I even got friends, they doing their podcast on the Anchor app. Faith Talk, you might have heard of it because it's very good. And it's great that It's an app like this, it's a website like this that makes it easier for people to do podcasts and do what they love best, talking about the things that they love to talk about. So give Anchor a try, say how much you like it. We'll love to hear your podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. Now we're going to talk about the other side of the conversation, the NFC South, division. But with the Unfiltered Access is Jason.
I'm all right, man. How you doing?
Okay, so AFC South won by the Houston Texans last year. Deshaun Watson, J.J. Watt, DeAndre Hopkins, Javion Clowney, all that good stuff. But it's a new year. Andrew Luck already questioning himself already. Jacksonville got Nick Foles, and the Tennessee Titans is still the Tennessee Titans. You know, so as we always do, we let our guests go first. So Jason, go ahead and break down the AFC South.
The Texans are the reigning champs. I mean, they did lose the wild card game to the Colts, so that's kind of a downer. I guess a big issue right now is dealing with Clowney and his holdout, but I mean, they're looking pretty stacked to start. They have a tough road ahead, but with Deshaun leading the way, it can't be too much difficulty in their way.
So, Alex, this is your division, sir.
Just move out the way, Darnell. I'm going to drive the train. The NFC South is basically a question of who wants to win the division the most. Whereas the AFC South, when you look at the situations and the scenarios top to bottom, you're really asking who wants to lose it the least. The Tennessee Titans right now have a former first-round pick, a former franchise quarterback that's also middling at forever 500 and Ryan Tannehill on the roster the same year Marcus Mariota is probably desiring a deal. A lot of people are wondering, is this the final year for Marcus Mariota in Tennessee? And all Mike Vrabel did to help motivate his quarterback is get a guy who was just the franchise quarterback of the Dolphins who are now rebuilding. To have a former first-round pick and a guy who, let's be real, Ryan Tannehill has won games in this league. Ryan Tannehill has started playoff games in this league. So to kind of write off the fact that it's one of the very, very low budding quarterback controversies in the NFL, that would be unwise. That being said, I mean, Derrick Henry kind of emerged last year. The question is, in a division that's full of running back talent, can Derrick Henry be the star back of the division? Can Derrick Henry be the back that's consistent and the back that, if I remember correctly, for a while now, we haven't had back-to-back 1,000-yard backs. I know the Colts haven't had one. Leonard Fournette, he was nicked up and getting suspended. So the AFC South basically is a rough and tumble division. Gone are the days of Peyton Manning just lighting us up for 40 every game and throwing for 500 and everybody else just figuring it out. You've got to play tough in this division, and offensive line is an issue for the Jaguars and the Texans. Andrew Luck is already nicked up, so even with the way that the offensive line played last year and with their guard Quentin Nelson being an all-pro as a rookie, you have to wonder, is that much more important? And can you really expect the line that made such a huge jump in one offseason to maintain that kind of level of play again? Really, it's all a matter of if the quarterback gets hurt or underperforms in any way, these teams really don't have that kind of juice to keep going. It's like the Carolina Panthers situation last year when Cam Newton had the shoulder injury and tried to play through it. Except it's all four teams. If Andrew Luck can't play at least 12 games this season, write the Colts off. If Marcus Mariota is in week 7 and he only has 6 touchdowns, you can write him and the Titans off because now they're going to be trying to see who the quarterback should be next year. If Deshaun Watson, God forbid, they drafted a tackle from D1 AA in the first round, and the reports are they're moving him inside to guard and having Sean, dude from Miami, but whatever. There's another dude who's been bouncing around the league that's supposed to be playing right tackle, and they're moving Titus Howard in at guard. So it's really a situation of you don't know if the quarterbacks are going to stay upright. And when these quarterbacks go down, it's a wrap, because as good as the Jaguars defense was last season, they went 5-11. As good as the Texas pass rush was last year, they couldn't touch Andrew Luck. And as good as the Tennessee Titans defense was, and they now have the highest paid safety in the NFL, they couldn't keep themselves in games when it just came down to pure scoring. So, in a nutshell, this division only has one truly elite quarterback, but he can't stay healthy. So all of these teams are really in trouble when you're talking about how to compete in the broad scope of the NFL.
When it comes to quarterback, that's their weakest opponent, like for real, is having the issue of can they stay healthy. With Henry, right now he's having a calf issue. That's not ideal for your, leading back. And I just saw a thing today about Fournette and them wanting to get 50 pass attempts to him. That's going to help his numbers a lot if he can stay healthy. QT's out right now. He's got that ankle injury, and they just added Duke, and of course has a hamstring issue. That's always something to worry about. Lamar's going to be that guy who will get all the touches, but they're not going to score. It's just when it comes to your running backs, at least in Houston, you have Watson who throws the fifth. He had the fifth most in the red zone throwing touchdowns. That's kind of hard to really battle, So while you think Lamar could have a good shot, or it's more likely going to be Duke getting those touches down there, especially if Kiki's out. And so it's tough. Like you said, it's for sure this division stuff. It's all going to be close. It's been back and forth. Houston's been on top a lot more in the past, 4 years than anybody else. But even then, it is a really competitive division for sure.
So before I dive into this, Dallas, I ask you, my brother, how do you feel about Nick Foles being your quarterback?
Sorry, Jason. They sure fucked up the cap to do it. They messed up the cap with Blake Bortles. Had to cut him, but didn't cut him as a post-June 1st designation. So they destroyed the cap cutting Blake. Cut a lot of veterans and key pieces from the previous year to make room in the cap. Signed Nick, destroyed the cap again. And now, with Nick being the quarterback, you have to wonder. Nick has had chances in the NFL with much more developed and established offenses, offensive coordinators, offensive head coaches, and just overall philosophies and weapons in the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jacksonville Jaguars are in a situation right now where it's like, dude, we don't even know if we're going to have the vaunted defense in place to help him out after this year. Between the fact that Jalen wants money, Yannick wants money, Calais Campbell's working on an option. We probably won't be able to afford Marcel Darius after this year because of his cap hit. So it's like, dude, it's not so much that I feel bad about having Nick. It's the fact of like, dude, y'all went out and adjusted the cap, redid the cap, did what you had to do to basically overbid against yourselves. It was basically whatever we were going to offer Nick, and then somebody maybe would have put some skin in the game. But really, everybody was waiting for us to float out an offer. There was really nobody else in the running. By the time everything even started, even the Broncos had already had Joe Flacco. So, and Case Keenum had already went to the Redskins because of the Joe Flacco thing. So it's like all the teams who really needed to find a quarterback to save their job and have a decent season, they already had something lined up. Hell, the Chargers even got Tyrod Taylor to be the backup. We were the only team that was in the running to get Nick. And we did a cap hell of a deal after getting out of a cap hell of a deal. So we'll have to see, because I don't feel like Nick Foles is a 4,500, 35-plus touchdown a year dude. He's had enough years to show us. Now, he is very efficient. He is a winner. He might be able to be the quarterback, whereas like his stats aren't pretty, but we're 9-7 on the outside looking in. But I don't know if he's the kind of quarterback that can carry a team. He's going to have to carry the team. Our cap is hell.
Yeah, I have them losing a lot this year, but at the same time, it's going to be a growing year for sure. You guys literally switched out your entire coaching staff and added Filippo, which will help a lot. I think that's going to help with the throwing for sure. And with Foles being as safe as he is, I think it's a nice step in the right direction. But it's going to have to be a development, like you said. I mean, they have Dede there, who's going to just ball out. I think I'm worried about Lee just because of the injury, but I mean, they have all the right pieces. It's just if they can put it together and actually make a run based on their coaching changes and having that right mindset to go forward.
Okay, so problems for every team, in my opinion. Tennessee, like I think me and you talked about this a lot last year. For some reason, they beat Jacksonville, but everybody else, we don't know what the hell's going on with Tennessee. The coach, pretty much Andrew Luck or bust. Jacksonville.
You know that's Dede, man. It's going to be Dede all day.
Dede?
I know it's
Hey, man, he's talented. It's after the catch, he has decent yards every time. He's able to work it. I mean, my issue is with, like, they have Cole, who literally led the league last year in drops.
Mm-hmm.
And then they have Conley, who they just picked up from KC, who I thought was super efficient for what he had with Mahomes.
Okay. I give you that. They got Chris Conley. I give you that. But, man, this go back to Dallas saying what they did with the cap. Like, y'all did all this to get Nick Foles, but how much?
Because Josh Oliver, he's nicked up right now. That's the flex tight end that they were trying to get him because all we have is blocking tight ends right now. Like, to Darnell's point, and, you know, I understand it. I appreciate you, Jason. But Darnell, what's basically going to happen is Dede Westbrook is going to have to basically be a poor man's Michael Thomas. That's going to be the only target. Yeah, Chris Conley has been building a good relationship with Nick Foles. When it comes to non-play action, straight up, we need a completion. Straight up, we need to get something done. All the targets are about to go to Dede because Marquise probably should be cut right now, but we actually paid him. So cap hits. We're basically hoping and praying and waiting that Marquise Lee can be healthy every so often. So you're talking about forcing targets to Dede, and John DeFilippo has basically said, my running back has no guaranteed money because Tom Coughlin took it away from him. We're giving him the ball and throwing him the ball.
On that same note, though, I mean, you have, like, they literally targeted the running backs 6 months behind the Pats, Saints, Chargers, Giants, and Chicago. Like,
yeah, TJ was the second leading receiver last year.
Yeah, so you just add those passing to your underneath to Fournette or, well, I guess they have a bunch of injuries there, too. I mean, they even signed Rawls, didn't they? And he's hurt, too.
We signed Benny Cunningham to basically be that receiving back. We cut him because he got hurt. So really, it's Fournette and Alfred Blue.
Wow. And then Houston, Connie's holding out. Obvious. What Dallas would like to say, J.J. Watt is not getting no younger. And Deshaun Watson, can you continue to improve and stay healthy? To me, Houston has the best wide receiver in the freaking league in DeAndre.
Yeah, I mean, but he needs that 30% of the target share to be that top wide receiver. And, I mean, I really think that Kiki and Fuller both help a lot to take away any kind of defense that they're going to be covering with on Hopkins. Granted, he doesn't really need the help, but it does increase the efficiency of Watson and makes Hopkins a better player.
Dallas, there's only one receiver in the league last year who did not have one drop.
If you looked at some of the catches that he made, I believe it.
This dude does not drop the ball whatsoever. So those are my concerns. And if we're going to go into scheduling, it's the battle for the South, Jason. The AFC South is going against the NFC South.
Yeah, man. I have them winning, I think, 10 games this year, at least in Houston. And then, same thing for the Colts. I think it's going to be another 10-6, so those two will match, in my opinion. But
you ready for the kicker, though?
Mm-hmm.
Dallas. Your division got to play the AFC West division.
Yeah, we open up against the Chiefs, so.
Now, just going to get to that, though. Opening week for the Jacksonville Jaguars, Patrick Mahomes is coming to town. So out the gate, y'all got the reigning MVP.
I'm more interested in the Colts versus the Chargers that week 1. See who really gets off to a hot start there, because I think that's going to be a tough game for sure.
Andrew Luck going out west to take on Phillip Rivers. Ooh.
That's it. We're saying Andrew Luck, but is it going to be Andrew Luck? Because apparently now it's not even an issue with his caliber.
And Paris is also having that hamstring issue, which might have him held out for the first game too. So
also, has Melvin Gordon come back to camp yet?
Yeah. No.
Oh, so Austin
Nope, he hasn't.
And Justin Jackson, they're both there.
Well, I mean, hey,
you got to have that ground and pound player, man. I mean, with Lynn there, that's his game. He likes to use those running backs in different ways.
During the off season, that's been very disrespectful.
It's warranted.
And you might have your shot after week 1 because Marcus Mariota and the Titans got to go up to play them Cleveland Browns week 1.
Oh, that's gonna be fun. We're gonna see if a safety is worth $70 million that game.
Yeah, hopefully they'll be able to cover something up. I mean, they also added Humphreys in the offseason, and I think that's going to help Luck at least. Mariota to throw it around a little bit. But again, Henry's supposed to be out week 1 potentially with his calf. I mean, so who are you going to run?
Lewis, and the thing with Cleveland is Cleveland used to be a fairly good defensive team and couldn't get it done on offense, but they've switched their focus. So now we're looking at them to be a very high-powered offensive team, but weak on defense. So it's going to depend because Deion Lewis, when you're looking at the 2 quarterbacks that the Tennessee Titans have on their roster, Deion Lewis is probably going to be one of the leading receivers, if not the leading receiver, at least catch-wise, on that team. I don't really know the underneath situation in the Cleveland Browns starting 11 on defense. They've actually given up a lot of pieces. Jamie Collins is back in New England. Danny Shelton's in New England. Joe Hayden's been on the Steelers for a couple years now, so I really don't know the flats and, Wheel and all that stuff. I don't know who'd be covering that. So if Derrick Henry is hurt, they still might be okay because neither of those quarterbacks are going to get deep regardless.
Jazz is playing Houston and London. Ooh. They send the Sean Watson going to level to London.
Man, any kind of overseas game or even the Mexico game, that's one thing I'm a Chargers fan, so of course I don't want the Chargers playing their home game against the Chiefs in Mexico. I mean, and flying anybody else over to London. Everybody's tired. It's going to be one of those weird games that you can't predict for fantasy for sure. I mean, you never know how that game's going to turn out.
That is true. We'll get to your Chargers next week as we do the West. But Andrew Luck, if he can stay healthy to this point, they got a date with Pittsburgh in Pittsburgh early November.
I mean, I've been saying it, but you guys aren't listening to me. This division is going to matter who loses the least games, not who wins the most. Because outside of the division, if you're really being straight up honest about it, this division is not competitive across the entire NFL. You're not putting the Titans against the Saints or the Steelers or the Falcons and legitimately thinking that they have a chance. The same way you're not going to put the Jaguars up against the Chiefs or the Ravens or something and think to yourselves they're going to score enough points to keep up. It's really going to be a matter of who gets all the tiebreakers inside the division.
Can I bolster your point? They do got the Patriots going to Houston for a Sunday night game.
They got fun with that.
And then they got them going to Baltimore.
Again, man, I mean, you're not even sure if Clowney's going to be there. I mean, they said, of course, it's John McClain, so it's hard to take with a grain of salt for sure, but they're looking to trade Clowney, and that's going to be a huge hit.
I think that the only thing right now that could give the Titans and the Jaguars an outside chance looking in is that Andrew Luck is super fragile right now, and the Houston Texans offensive line. I mean, Seantrell Henderson, a journeyman, and drafting a guy from the FCS, shout out to the HBCUs in Alabama State, in the first round. Like a first-round draft pick that's a rookie who might be playing at a position and a journeyman. Those are your key additions to an offensive line that had like a bunch of sacks. So when you're looking at Jarrell Casey and the rest of the defensive line in Tennessee and Josh Allen, Yannick Ngakoue, Calais Campbell, Marcel Darius, hopefully Taven Bryan can turn that corner. That might be how the two teams who are probably going to be on the bottom could catch up. But, I mean, it's – like I said, dude, it's –
Anyway, y'all know I did a poll on Twitter and Facebook, so you ready for these numbers, Dallas? A total of 78 votes from both Facebook. Coming in at first place is the Indianapolis Colts, 41%. Second place, the Jacksonville Jaguars with 27%.
They must really think that the defensive line is going to hold it together.
Well, I mean, maybe they're looking at the strength of schedule for that because, I mean, Jacksonville really does have like the third best for quarterback, I mean, and the fifth for wide receiver for strength of schedule. According to, I mean, granted, that's last year's numbers, but, and then same thing with the Colts. I mean, they have the fourth for QBs as a strength of schedule. I mean, so that might be what they're looking at, but again, it's all based on people being healthy.
And that's
the Houston third, 23%, and to Dallas' point, the Tennessee Titans coming last with 9%.
I think the reason why the Jaguars are given even that much of a chance, even though it is a social media poll, because I think we didn't get a single vote on Twitter. I think the thing in the NFL is look at the guy who was just voted number one in the NFL Top 100. Look at the guy who held out for us. Look at the guy who's holding out in Tennessee. Look at the guys last year that got paid. Aaron Donald got paid last year and led the league in sacks as a 3-4 defensive end and was number one in the NFL Top 100. Khalil Mack, John Gruden didn't want to pay him, so he only went over to Chicago and made Chicago a 6-10 team look going into the season to like an actual we thought they could contend just off their defense. Like, dude, pass rushers, no matter what era of football it is, no matter what rules you legislate, if you have a pass rush, if you have more than one pass rusher, hell, if you have a generational pass rusher and guys that can just take up space, you're going to be in a lot more games than you're supposed to be. So that's the only reason I could think, because the Jaguars definitely prepared for the Yannick situation by drafting Josh Allen. And the year before, even though Taven Bryan's not been looking good so far, they drafted a guy from Florida who was supposed to be a very disruptive interior rusher. So Tom Coughlin, like he did in New York when he was with Giants, he really focused on giving us a very deep defensive line. The only problem is, like, you know, everybody knows, like, the one thing that we are elite at is pass defense. So how often are you really going to try to pass against the Jacksonville Jaguars? If you don't pass, you take that away.
They got Boyd, Ramsey, so y'all secondaries.
Yeah, I mean, that goes to the point I just said. I mean, if you pass against Jacksonville, if you do get the ball off, you're throwing it to one of two top 10 corners. I mean, if you're an NFL team and you really want to look like the Indianapolis Colts did the second game of the season when they played us in Jacksonville and lost 6-0, go right ahead. Please pass the ball 50 times against the Jacksonville Jaguars and think that you're going to prove a point. Because, I mean, that's the one way that we would beat people, just going off of last year and the additions that we made now. That's the one thing we have is the pass defense.
Well, that's the NFC South, and the Colts are the favorite, followed by the Jaguars, the Texans, and Titans, which is kind of surprising to me because I thought, you know, there'll be more faith in the Texans. I still think
the Texans have a good shot. I mean, granted, you know, Tim Kelly's there for the coach, and he's the OC right now. He worked with Russell Wilson. I mean, and you have that same kind of build with Watson. I mean, it's going to be a good move there. I mean, and of course, they have the coaching assistant is TJ Yates. I mean, he was a quarterback, so he knows and has some more experience. Granted, he was a backup for most of his games, but still, I guess the big issue there, which is the no GM issue. I mean, Chris Olsen is the interim, right? And Like, so if people are trying to trade for Clowney or whatever, what are they going to do? I mean, how's that going to work out for you?
It is what it is. You know, this is what we do. Stuff and get stuff like this. So that would do it for this week. I want to thank Jason for coming on.
Always happy to be on and get to talk with y'all.
So as we get ready to close out, next up, college football.
Mm-hmm.
The Big 12. Is it okay to lose, or do people think Texas is back in full force and is ready to take over? I'm gonna leave that to Dallas to talk about because it's getting very interesting.
I mean,
with Jalen Hurts being,
if your definition of interesting is wondering if OU is going to win the division or win the division and the Heisman, then I mean you have low bars, Darnell.
I want to speak for me. I'll speak from what I saw so far.
Yeah, I think I get that one some time to breathe too. So hopefully get some more votes.
So yeah, Big 12. And then on the rest side, that's go ahead.
SummerSlam and NXT Takeover happened, so we're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about what we hope, because, you know, we still have stuff to watch during the week, could happen. Because as you know, Darnell, after every Big Four pay-per-view, all you're doing is waiting for the next Big Four pay-per-view. The only problem is the next Big Four pay-per-view is Survivor Series. So I don't know what we're looking forward to, because the wild card era has basically taken away the entire allure of brand versus brand and champion versus champion matches. So we're going to figure out what happened in the aftermath of SummerSlam and NXT TakeOver. Later.
We'll see you next time.